Hi Jeremy and Jack, hope you're both well. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of the back end of the site and how you can make some basic changes to pages and the menu and things like that. But there's also full documentation that comes with the theme I've used, which is available here, and I'll send you a link to this so you can look through it in detail. But this should help you with pretty much anything I don't cover. So the site's built on WordPress, and this is the premium theme that it uses is called Total, which is a very modular theme. So it's not like it's not like the old days where a site is built and then you're restricted to the original layout or the original number of pages, that kind of thing. It's all very adaptable now. So this will be very useful for looking up different things you might want to do if you can't figure them out just by experimentation. So to log into the site, the back end of the site, you'll go to dtypedevs.com/wp-admin. I'll send you the username and login. It's logged me in automatically. Here is the dashboard, and down the left side are the various sections for editing different aspects of the site. The first one I'll show you is appearance. So this is useful for changing anything visual about the site: colors, fonts, font sizes, things like that, things that are changed site-wide on every page. So if you go to appearance and then customize, it will show the page as it appears on the front end to people who visit the site, but it'll also have all these options down here for changing different aspects of the site. So for example, under site identity, we've got the site title, which is what people see when they hover over the tab in their browser, and also a site icon, which I added, but you could change that if you like by selecting a different image. We've got where menus appear, which you probably won't need. General theme options like the accent color. I've chose this, what's apparently racing green, but if you were to change that, then it would automatically update the accent color across the site. The site background, so just to show you how easy it is to make the changes, if I just select a different color here, it changes that quickly and automatically. And then if I were to click publish, that would then be pushed to the live site, which I won't do right now. And various other things. So if, for example, you wanted to change the footer, there's an area for that down here, which has the text, a little bit of HTML, but the text there, and then the option for what the color the link should be, and also what color it should be when you hover over it. But you can also disable it by unticking that and putting it back. So these options and lots of the things in the back end of the site, you can just play around with and see what happens basically, and only when you're happy with it do you need to press publish and push those changes to the live site. So for now, I will exit out of this without saving the changes, which I would do by clicking publish, to show you how to make changes to pages. So that section there, appearance, customize, as I mentioned, is good for changing visual aspects of the site, but for changing what's on pages and creating new pages, we'll do that under here, which is pages, and then you can view them or add them. This section here called posts is traditionally in WordPress would be used for blog posts, but I find it easier just to stick with pages. Once you've created a few pages, you can then duplicate them, and that makes it quicker for creating new pages without having to make a new layout every time. So if you click into pages, here's a list of all the pages that are currently on the site, and you can see that some of them are indented, meaning they belong to the one above. So these pages are filed under cars. Cars is kind of being used as a category. That page is a page in its own right, but it's not being used for anything other than creating a category. So let's look at one of the pages here. So click into this one. So this is one way you can change this page, this backend editor. To change the page title or the heading on the page, you would alter this here, and then by doing that, if I go to that page, by changing this, this would change. By changing the permalink, which is the URL of the page or the address of the page, by changing this, this here would change in the browser. So when you're creating a new page in the backend here, this backend editor, I use that to change to set the title of the page and its URL. I also select this template here, which is no sidebar. That basically is a blank page, but don't worry too much about that for now. But that's kind of the one I always choose. At that point, you can then click on Front End Editor, and that will take us to what you see is what you get version of the page, basically. So it's exactly as it looks on a on the live site, except when you hover over various elements of the page, you get the option to change them. So all of these elements are contained within rows and columns within those rows. So this one here is a text block. This one is an image grid. But those are just two of many different types of modules that you can add to pages. So let's say I wanted to add a text block underneath these images. If you want to add a new module, whether it's a text block or anything else, you click on this append to column here, and then you get all these different elements that you can add. So we've got a text block, we've got a video player, which you'd paste a link into, YouTube link or Vimeo, and it would add a video for you. You can click on single images or image galleries. You can also search up here if that makes it easier. For example, if I put in gallery, we get image grid, which is what this is. So if I wanted to put a text block in, I click on that. It then automatically places it at the bottom. Anything I change here is, so if I copy and paste that a couple of times, anything I put there is automatically updated once I click save down here. And that module or that element can then be moved by dragging it relative to the other one. So I've dragged that above, but I could also drag it back below. If I wanted to, well, each element has lots of different settings. So as you saw in this text block setting, as well as this, which is a bit like a word processor where I can make things bold, or I could set this as a heading. I would choose heading 2 because that's heading 1. So you kind of go in a hierarchical way. As well as changing things in there, you have other options. So for example, the typography, you could center this text. So I'm actually changing, which text am I changing? So I'm changing this text here. So that's made that into a heading, that there, and then made it. I centered the text, so that centered it there. You could, if you wanted to, change the font, although you probably wouldn't do that. You could also change the font size. Again, it's unlikely to do that, but the option's there. And if you wanted to change the gap between this text and something above or below it, you can add padding through the Design Options tab by adding a number here. And then you can see that it's created the amount of space in pixels that I put there. And it's just about trying a number and seeing what works. If it looks good, keeping it. It really is a very visual way of editing a site. Other elements will have different options. So this image grid, as well as adding images to it by clicking on this plus here and then upload files and navigating to where the image is, like here for example. When you add an image, it's good practice to add a title and the alt text there. So I'd add an image, it would then appear as another image in the gallery. If you feel that that's a bit messy the way that those look, you can go down into here in the general tab and choose a different way of displaying the images. So that's doing it as fit rows it's called, and I could do 3 columns instead of 2. These images are all different aspect ratios, which generally will create a bit of a messy look, but you can just play around with play around with how these images are laid out. Or I could even just have them one above the other, which might be nicest. So that's how you edit an element and add an element. These are worth just playing around with to add various things. So for example, a different one that we've not looked at yet, let's just try one at random. So let's add a, what should we add? Maybe a button. So this button here has appeared here. So let's say that I wanted to add a contact us button to every page, or maybe to the car pages or something like that. I change the text here like that. I can then change also the style of the button. Doesn't actually, am I changing that? Or the background color. Make it square, whatever you want. And also you would obviously put a URL in as well to lead to whatever page you want them to go to. You could also add an icon. It's so adaptable that you will probably find yourself playing around with these things for hours. So what would you want? Some kind of contact thing. Maybe none of those, but just as an example, you have a button there. Then that button can be moved up or down. Maybe we'd want it in the middle though, so again you could do alignment. That's the icon alignment, so center there. That's now in the middle. That's a bit close to the text, so the design option here would be to add a bit of space there, and then that's a button. Once you are happy with the page and the way you've changed it, you click update there. Otherwise, if you don't want to update it, you can undo things here, or you can click here to go back to the backend editor. So that front end editor is by far the easiest way of altering pages, so you can see what they look like as you go. Let's now imagine that we wanted to create a new page. So we'd go into all pages. You could either create a new page from scratch up here, or you can duplicate an existing page and then modify it, which can be easier, especially if you tend to use the same layouts of pages again and again. So let's say I was adding a new car. I could duplicate any of these by clicking on duplicate this. Once it's done that, it will add the word, it's taking a little while for some reason, it will add the word draft to that, so the page won't be live automatically, we'll have to make it live. So where's that draft there? So we click on edit, and then we'd give it a new name. So, and then we'd also change the URL to whatever it should be. Sometimes you can also just copy that there and paste it into there, and when you press OK, it will automatically make it lowercase and take out the spaces. Then you can click Save Draft, just to save those two changes you made there. Then you can click Front-End Editor to actually make the changes to the pages that you want. So here I could do anything as I was just describing. I could add new modules, I could add a new image at the top here, or I could just change this text and change all the images in the gallery. Once you're happy with the way that looks, so let's say I want to add an image above maybe a header image. Let's just do that. Click here, click single image, click image there, and then select whatever image, or if it's not already been uploaded, click upload files and select it here. Select this one. We'd add a proper title and an alt text. Click set image, and then click save. That's now been added at the bottom, but if we want, we can just drag that up to the top to make it a header image at the top of the page. Again, the text is a bit close, so with design options, we'd add a bit of a gap there, 30 pixels. And then maybe this image looks a bit odd on the left there, so click on General, then go down to Image Alignment, Center, Save. That pops it in the middle. If you wanted to make the image smaller for some reason, then you can put in image dimensions here. You can put in medium, for example, which would make it that big. Or you can give it exact dimensions but you'd want to make sure you kept the aspect ratio the same. So if I do 200 by 100, it's actually cropping the image in a slightly odd way. Anyway, I'll leave you to experiment with that. So usually though, as long as the image isn't absolutely huge when you upload it, maybe you've already saved it out of Photoshop a bit smaller. Generally 1200 pixels wide is a good size, because that will, even on big screens like the one I'm using, that will look good. Once you've saved it at a reasonable size, so less than 200 kilobytes for a big image, then keeping it as full is generally fine, and that will then never be bigger than its container. So even if that was a lot bigger, it would be shrinking it down so it fits. So you don't have to worry too much about the exact sizes of images. So let's say we've now made that page look the way we want it to look for that new car. We'd click either Save Draft if we wanted to work on it later, or we'd click Publish if we're ready for it to go live. And then we'd go back to the Backend editor and then into Pages, and we can see that that page now is new car, and the reason it belongs to cars, i.e. the reason it has cars here in the permalink, is because over here the parent is set as cars, but that could be any other page you created as a parent. But generally, if you duplicate I've set up two different types at the moment, products and cars, and if you duplicate either, these settings will be retained, so it's generally quite simple. You don't have to edit too much, but you have the freedom to create any category and any URL structure you like. So now let's say I wanted to add this new car to the menu. So so we find it underneath here, or rather underneath here. We do that by going to Appearance, Menus, and then you can see the current menu structure here represented with these bars. So things that are under other things are inset by dragging them left or right. So at the moment, aeroscreen, wheels, carburetors, and the spinner all sit under products because I've dragged them level with each other underneath products here. But wheels has two items underneath it, and that's designated by dragging them to the right. So if I were to drag that even further, if I were to drag that to the right of that one there and then click Save Menu, it would create a fourth level to that menu there. So I'll just refresh that to show you. So under products, wheels, that there, and then we had another one there. But I'll return that to how it was, like that. And click Save to revert it back. So we added a new car by duplicating a current car, changing its name and its page title and URL, changing the contents a bit. It's now appeared automatically in this area over here, and we can click to add it to the menu. We click on it, click Add to Menu. It then appears at the bottom. At the moment, that would appear just on the far right here because it's after everything else. But let's say we wanted it where it should be under cars. We would drag it up to here. Click Save. And then refreshing the site, we'd see it listed here as a new item under cars. Clicking there takes us to the page. If you want to remove that or any of the other items, we just drop down, click Remove, update there, and that does that. This products item and cars don't actually go to product and car pages at the moment, although they could, but they don't at the moment. They're just there to sort of categorize the menu. But the way they work is I've added them as custom links here. So a custom link can be any URL with any text. So if I wanted to add for some reason a link to Google, I would put in google.com, and then I would put in Google here. I would add to menu, and it would appear at the bottom. But if I wanted to add something that functions in the same way as products, which is you can't click on it, you can only click on the things that drop down from it, and the same with cars. The way that you do that is you, I'll just remove that one. You add a URL that uses the hashtag or pound sign, and then the link text is just whatever the top level category should be called. So maybe you would call it services, and then you click add to menu. That can then be dragged a bit higher up. Then you would add actual services. Maybe you'd create a page for different services, something like that, or just have a services page, although in that case you'd probably link directly to it. But let's say you had multiple pages, you would then add those, drag them under there, and then that would function in the same way as products or cars. The hashtag basically means that when you click that item, it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays on the same page. So I will remove that there. Click save, so the menu is back to the way it was. So now we've looked at how to create pages by duplicating them, editing what's on them to some degree, and then changing the menu items. Those might be some of the things you want to do initially, but as I mentioned, if there's anything about the site just right off the bat that you want to change visually, whether it's colors or you could change, let's say you wanted to change this logo to a different version, for example. Visual things you find under customize. And then, as I mentioned, so let's say you wanted to change this, then you would go and you just have, I mean, I've used this for a long time and I still have to just click through them to find it. I think it is header and then logo, and then you could change the image by selecting a different one. You could say how big it should be. I've chosen to make it 200 pixels just because the image as I uploaded it is a lot bigger than that. And that's how you would change the logo. You could also, let's say you felt that the text was a bit small on, let's say you wanted to change the size of this text, then you would go into typography, body, and then change this to something else. That's obviously a bit big, but what I'm trying to show really is this, that you kind of need to find the element that represents the visual change you want to make, and then make it, see what happens. You can also just navigate to different pages here, and then you'll see the changes reflected all before pressing publish, which sends the things live to the actual site. So this one I've just come into at random is called H1, which is these main headings, and if I wanted to make them all automatically uppercase across the whole site, I would choose that there, and that change would be made, but I'll leave it as it is. Yeah, so lots of just playing around, see what happens. But the fundamentals are all there really. If you do like the way the site looks, then you don't really need to change too much apart from adding new pages and then making the pages look really good by adding different elements and things. But it's quite fun just playing around with it, I think, and because it is so visual and there's just no code needed. So yeah, as I mentioned, if there's anything that you need to do that I've not covered, then you can check this documentation, which I'll send you by email now. And you can also just let me know if you need a hand with anything. Just send me an email and either I'll do it or I'll show you how to do it. And yeah, hopefully you have fun and can get the site looking the way you need it to look. All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.